Have a good show.
All right, thanks, Con. I'll catch you tomorrow. Hello, good evening. Thanks for being with us tonight. Here on The Hill, I'm Blake Burman. This is The Hill on News Nation. An attack on ICE, and one detainee is dead. The very latest as we know it this evening, after the Department of Homeland Security says a shooter fired indiscriminately at an ICE field office in Dallas.
To every politician who is using rhetoric, demonizing ICE and demonizing CBP, stop. Look, in America, we disagree. That's fine. That's the democratic process. But your political opponents are not Nazis.
We'll show you the messages as well that were found on the ammunition. Also tonight, back on the road, we are live in Virginia as Turning Point USA resumes its campus tour. Governor Glenn Youngkin, Megyn Kelly among those expected before the microphones. Plus, you know that Jimmy Kimmel is back on the air, right? But did you see Gavin Newsom as well on the late night TV circuit? What he said and how Democrats are now pushing back against the president, and the White House unveiling a new look just off the Rose Garden. Why a picture, though, of an auto pen is now hanging along one of Washington's most famed walks. We'll explain. But first tonight here from The Hill, tragedy in Texas. A gunman opening fire on an ICE field office in the Dallas area, shooting into a building and a van and striking 3 detainees. The Department of Homeland Security says one person is dead, 2 others in critical condition, no ICE officers hurt. The suspect found dead from a self-inflicted gunshot. The shooter, now identified as 29-year-old Joshua John from Collin County, Texas. The shooter firing multiple rounds from a nearby roof overlooking the field office there. You see the office there, and that was believed to be the position down there. One of the bullets discovered at the scene carrying a message written on it. This right here, as you see, it says anti-ICE. The president just responding on Truth Social, saying in part, quote, "This is despicable. The brave men and women of ICE are just trying to do their jobs and remove the worst of the worst," as he puts it, criminals out of our country. But they are facing unprecedented increase in threats, violence, and attacks by deranged radical leftists. That the comment from the president. The vice president, J.D. Vance, also responding to the attack just hours ago in an exclusive interview with our Rashad Hudson.
I'd encourage everybody to really tone down the rhetoric when it comes particularly to our law enforcement and our ICE agents. These are people who are enforcing the law as it's written by Congress and as instructed by the President of the United States. The fact that they've become such a target of online, social media, and even political harassment, I think, thank God most people don't intend to do them harm. But as we find out today, some people do intend to do them harm, and they'll act on it.
So here's what we're going to do tonight as we continue to learn the latest. We will hear from Texas lawmakers, both sides of the aisle, a Democrat and a Republican. But first to our Brian Enton, who is on the ground there in Texas this evening with what we are learning from federal law enforcement. Brian?
Yeah, hey, Blake, there is a massive investigation happening out here right now, as you can imagine, trying to figure out how this sniper was able to get up onto a nearby roof 450 feet away from the ICE facility here outside Dallas with a direct line of sight to the area where there was a van and ICE agents. They were transporting detainees, and he was able to shoot right at that van. You mentioned it. There were 3 detainees who were hit by the gunfire. One of them is dead. We know that there is another detainee who's in critical condition right now. They were apparently being processed here. And you can see on the map right now, again, 450 feet away. So he was able to make that shot. The detainees were here being processed. We're told they were then going to be moved to another facility. And what's interesting is they have photos of the bullets up on the roof. There it is right there. And they very clearly, one of them says anti-ICE. Which is a bit confusing because apparently this shooter was anti-ICE, but he ended up shooting and killing the migrants who were being transferred through this facility. The shooter has been identified by News Nation as 29-year-old Joshua John. There are also pictures from inside the facility, really, really disturbing. Blake, you can see there's bullet holes in the windows of the ICE facility in offices. So thankfully, there were no workers sitting right near those windows because the bullets came inside the facility. You can clearly see the bullet holes in the windows, and then you can even see a bullet hole that went through an American flag that was hanging on the wall inside the ICE facility. Blake?
Our Brian Enton live there in Texas tonight. If updates warrant, we'll get back out to Brian. Brian, thanks so much. Appreciate it. The shooting, of course, is just the latest attack on ICE and the third involving ICE in the state of Texas since July. Violent demonstrations erupted over the summer as the Trump administration's illegal immigration crackdowns intensified. On the 4th of July, more than a dozen rioters violently attacked an ICE detention center in Alvarado, Texas. One shot at a local police officer. He was injured in the neck. Just 3 days later, a gunman also opened fire outside a Border Patrol facility in McAllen, Texas. Today, the mayor there in Dallas, Eric Johnson, with this appeal.
I've got children. I've got 3 young children. And I'm here to tell you that it is challenging to explain to them what's going on in our country right now. But I said before, and I'll say it again, I believe in the power of prayer to change things. And it can change the hearts of people. It can change this country. It can change the city. So please pray.
With us now, once again, here on the Hill, joining us tonight from Texas, San Antonio. He is the Republican Congressman Tony Gonzalez. Congressman, thanks for being with us tonight. I always appreciate your perspective. I'm sorry it's under these circumstances, but as I often remind our audience, you have your district has the longest stretch along the southern border of any district in this country, right? So I'm sure that you have friends and I know constituents who are ICE officers, Border Patrol agents. When you learned of this news today, Congressman, what went through your mind?
Yeah, thank you for having me on, Blake. Yeah, it's a punch in the gut because time and time again we're seeing more and more of this violence, and ICE agents are just doing their job. They're not making policy; they're implementing policy. Whether you agree with it or not, you know they're not the ones that should be to blame. I support ICE. You should support ICE. Everyone should support ICE. I'd also say too, you know, in the media, you have a responsibility to help cool things down and bring civility. I'm glad you're having both parties on tonight. As a member of Congress and a representative, you know, a public servant, I have a responsibility to tone the rhetoric down and bring people together. And then I would say your viewers, as everyday people, we need to get out amongst ourselves and talk to our neighbors and be able to go, it's okay to be passionate about the things that are important to us, but we have to do it in a manner that isn't dangerous. And killing innocent people is the wrong approach. So it's a sad day here in Texas for sure.
You speak with these ICE officers. What are they telling you?
Yeah, they're proud to do the job. They're proud people. They're servants. They're honorable people, and they're not going to be bullied. They're not going to be shied away from doing that job. They're going to do the job. But it's also a scary time. You know, they feel they're under a lot of pressure, a lot of attacks. Once again, they're not making policy. They're just implementing policy. So this is where we have to stand strong with our law enforcement officers. We need to get back to law and order in this country. And also, once again, it's okay to protest. It's okay to be vocal about the things that you are in favor or against. You can do it in a manner without killing people and inciting riots.
I hear you, Congressman, and you're striking a tone of civility and trying to lower the temperature and to not get into the politics of it all. I'm sure you heard the statement that I read in part from the president. You heard the vice president's comments as well, in which they point toward the left. And the left today, at least that your colleagues, the Democratic delegation from Texas, responded back saying this, in part, quote, the Trump administration and the governor must stop stoking the flames of division, hate, and anger to exploit people's fears for political gain. So I don't know, Congressman, I hear what you're saying, but I also hear the politics behind this.
Yeah, no, I think the easiest thing to do in politics, I know this, the easiest thing to do in politics is to blame somebody else. It's always somebody else's fault for how we got here and what's going on. I think back to my time in the military. I recently retired from the military. In the military, there is no blame. Like, you're all in it together. You have a mission to get done, and whether you want to or not, you have to work with those around you to get it done. And I think our mission right now is, let's get back to some calm. Let's get back to rooting for the Cowboys or against the Cowboys. Let's get rooting to booing the Yankees or cheering the Yankees. You know, like, we need to get back to just, hey, not everything has to be DEFCON 5 politics, my way or the highway. We need to get back to just having some civility. And it's okay to disagree, but I think a big part of that is, once again, members of Congress have to do that, media has to do that, and everyday citizens have to do that as well, whether it's in church, in school, in the grocery store. Just be nice to your neighbor today.
Just be nice to your neighbor today, indeed. He is the congressman there from Texas, Tony Gonzalez. I'm sure we'll have you back on soon, Congressman. Thank you.
Thank you, Blake.
Of course. All right. I told you we were going to hear from the other side of the aisle. With us now here in studio, she is the Democratic state representative from Texas, Nicole Collier. She represents Fort Worth, several other communities just west of Dallas. It is nice to see you. Thanks for being with us tonight. Again, I'm sorry it's under these circumstances. You're in town for other reasons.
Yes.
Tony Gonzalez is a Republican. You just heard what he had to say. He's from Texas. You're from Texas. I wonder what you make of what you just heard.
Yes, thank you for having me on. Of course, I condemn the violent acts that were taken out today. And one thing I want us to do is just take a breath, because we should take a measured approach. When we're talking about what happened, we don't know what happened. And so to try to place blame is premature. I've always taught my children, and I'm teaching my grandchildren, to respect law enforcement, to obey the lawful commands of our law enforcement. So I think that, making assumptions that it was somebody from the left is premature. Let's just tone it down a little bit. Let's wait for law enforcement to conduct their investigation. I mean, I remember a time when investigations, the details, specific details, were withheld. They were not shared. And so it makes me wonder, I question, why would these specific details, when Mr. Kirk was murdered, and then now at the Dallas ICE shootings, they're telling us the shell casings, what's written on the shell casings. Well, how does that promote or protect the public safety by releasing this information? I just want to make sure that, when we're talking about the investigations, is this information necessary or is it political? Well, we do know that it said anti-ICE. Yes. And we do know what happened on July 4th. And we do know what happened on July 7th in your state. And it seems like they are being targeted. And I just wonder what needs to happen here to stop all this. Well, of course, it's the statements, the things that you say out of your mouth, words, have a big impact on people. But we don't know what was going on. We don't know if this was targeted towards ICE or targeted towards the individuals who were being detained at the ICE location. It does say anti-ICE on it. It says, but it could also be a distraction. It could be something that the individual put on there just to incite. We don't know the whole thing. And to make these assumptions, we need to be careful and responsible. If we're going to talk about being responsible, then let's be careful what comes out of our mouths and the statements that we make, unless we have confirmed information that can draw a direct. So then did your colleagues there in Texas get a little too far ahead of things? Well, I think anybody who's making assumptions about whether it's the left or the right has made it prematurely. I think we need to be careful. Let's let the law enforcement do their investigation. Right now, I'm being told that FBI is in charge. Let's make sure that they have access to all the information that they need to complete their investigation. And then we want people to continue to do the reporting. That's another thing that we need to be concerned about. If people are supposed to report to these ICE facilities for specific reasons, we don't need any more other reason. We don't need another reason for them not to comply. So it's important that we remind people, continue to report to ICE if that's what is required, continue to get health care, continue to send your children to school, because we want to make sure that people don't live in fear, but we live in going forward under the rule of law.
Cole Collier, Democrat from Texas, with us tonight here on the Hill. Thanks for coming in tonight.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it. All right, still to come. Lots of show left over the next 45 minutes or so. We're going to take you live to Virginia Tech in a moment. Turning Point USA, they continue their campus tour. It begins in moments, and we'll show you some of it. Plus, Democrats pushing back. Newsom, Schumer, Jeffries, how they are all now calling out the Trump administration. And he's calling it the Walk of Fame. But did you see what is now on the wall of one of the most famous spots in this town when the Hill returns? I thank you for being with us tonight. I'm Blake Burman, back on the other side in 4 minutes. All right, so Jimmy Kimmel, as you know, back on the airwaves across much of the country last night after a nearly week-long suspension by ABC over comments he made about Charlie Kirk. The ABC affiliate stations owned by Sinclair and Nexstar continued to preempt the show. Nexstar, NewsNation's parent company, and put out this statement, quote, Nexstar is continuing to evaluate the status of Jimmy Kimmel Live on our ABC-affiliated local television stations, and the show will be preempted while we do so. We are engaged in productive discussions with executives at the Walt Disney Company with a focus on ensuring the program reflects and respects the diverse interests of the communities we serve. But the president saying the fight is not over, writing, quote, I can't believe ABC fake news gave Jimmy Kimmel his job back. The White House was told that that the show would be canceled. I think we're going to test ABC out on this. Let's see how we do. Now, across the airwaves on another late night show last night, the California governor, Gavin Newsom, talking about fighting back against the Trump administration. Watch.
Democrats feel that, times there's sort of this weakness that dominates our brand and our party. And I think what people appreciate is that we're willing to fight, and not only fight symbolically by having a little bit fun, but fight substantively. We have 41 lawsuits against this son of a...
Is Newsom signaling a tougher stance from the Democratic Party? Joining me now, Bill McGinley, former cabinet secretary in the first Trump White House, and Dan Cannonen, former Battleground States Director for the Biden and Harris campaigns. Hello to you both. Hello. Thanks for being here. In my house, we would call that a potty mouth out of the governor. Between that, Dan, and then also what I'm seeing here in Washington, which is Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries basically saying to the president, bring it on this shutdown. It seems like your side of the aisle finally figured out, okay, we need to get on the field, and this is how we're going to play the game. Is that how the game should be played from your side?
Look, I think when you have leverage, and Newsom had some with redistricting, and you can have a substantive fight that's worth having, people want that out of the Democrats right now. And I will say, Blake, on the shutdown dynamic, Democrats have a very clear posture here. It's crystal clear. We want the government to stay open. We want to stop the health care cost crisis that's coming with 75% premium hikes for 20 million Americans. Republicans have a choice of where they stand. Do they want to be with us on that, keep it open and fix that problem, or do they want to shut it down?
It feels like your party feels emboldened now, like, all right, aha, we got it. We figured it out. Here's what we're going to do.
Again, I think when there's leverage to do good things for people, and not just symbolic stuff, as the governor said, doing a Facebook Live from the steps, or Cory Booker's speech, which was interesting for a couple days, a long filibuster, that's great. But people want to fight for stuff that matters, and fighting on health care matters to people.
You think they figured it out?
Hakeem Jeffries has already lost the fight in the House. The House passed a clean CR. Chuck Schumer remembers the reaction from his radical left base.
He got crushed by the Democratic Party.
When he agreed to vote with that. Yep. He's worried about his primary next year, which is what this is all about. He's worried about AOC and some of the other progressives in New York that might challenge him. The Democrats have no footing. When Joe Biden was president, they wanted to pass a clean CR, and you can go out and look at the legions of statements that they said about the merits of a clean CR. Now that President Trump is in office, a 7-week clean CR now is the worst thing that could possibly happen. So Democrats are very hypocritical on this issue. The Democratic Party doesn't have an agenda, and President Trump is going to
But go beyond it, though, because a guy that you know, Tim Walz, you ran the Battleground States for him. There was that incident at the United Nations when the president was going up the escalator and it just suddenly stopped. And the White House, Caroline Leavitt, said someone it needs to be investigated immediately. Here's Tim Walz today. Not only do they need to be fired, they need to be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. It's a miracle the president ever made it up the stairs. It seems like they are saying, okay, we're going to troll, we're going to try to do what Trump is doing.
Yeah, the trolling stuff, I think, works with the base. It gets some attention. It got a chuckle out of me just there, I suppose. But I think on Bill's point about the clean CR and where Democrats
This is the government funding.
The government funding piece in October. It's not just about 7 weeks then versus 7 weeks now. In October, right now coming up, when those tax credits expire and 20 million Americans have a 75% hit on health care, Republicans should join Chuck Schumer in this bill, because if they don't, they're going to find out how bad the politics are when they actually hit people with these costs after telling them they're going to lower their costs.
You used to be inside the first White House. There was supposed to be this meeting between Schumer, Jeffries, and the president, and it just went into thin air. You think that ever happens? And what happens if they ever get in a room?
I think it probably happens first with Johnson and Thune.
Okay.
I think to redo it and then set up the president later on. Chances are we're going toward a shutdown right now, because I think the Republicans have the upper hand right now with the clean CR, give the 7 weeks for negotiations, work something out. What I know MAGA doesn't want, what I know Republicans don't want, we are $37 trillion in debt. Democrats seem to think that there's unlimited cash.
Oh, but you guys could have done something about that time. You know that.
But we are now at a point, we're at an inflection point. It needs to be addressed.
Got to run. We'll see you both later in the show. Appreciate it. All right, still much more ahead here on the Hill. Turning Point USA resuming its campus tour tonight. Virginia Tech University, just down the road from us in Blacksburg. Comes 2 weeks, of course, after Charlie Kirk's assassination. We are live in Virginia on the other side of the break.
Plus, text now and we'll include a tube of Instaflex pain cream with its exclusive oxygenated oil for fast-acting relief from the pain of arthritis, backaches, and sore muscles. Absolutely free. Text FEET to 369-369.
.30 here on the East Coast and in Blacksburg, Virginia tonight. A large gathering of students at Virginia Tech University at the second stop of Turning Point USA's tour in the wake of Charlie Kirk's assassination. The state's governor, Glenn Youngkin, Megyn Kelly as well, will be speaking shortly at that event. And tonight, we are learning of new security measures on campus there, which include moving the event completely indoors. Our Hannah Brandt on campus tonight with what she is seeing there, as we can very clearly hear and see that event is almost underway. Hannah?
Yeah, Blake, that's right. The lights are flashing. The music is going. Students are streaming in here behind me. You can see a couple hundred here behind me. We're going to give you a closer look at the crowd here tonight. Turning Point USA tells me they actually expect this auditorium to be entirely full for tonight's event. That's about 3,000 people they're expecting to be here tonight. This, though, of course, looks much different than when they originally planned it before the shooting of Charlie Kirk. He was supposed to be here in this auditorium tonight, and he was supposed to hold a debate with students this afternoon outdoors. That outdoor portion of the event was canceled after his shooting. And as far as the indoor portion, he's got a couple of people stepping up to fill his shoes. That's Virginia Governor Glenn Youngkin, conservative media figure Megyn Kelly. They're expected to speak here behind me tonight, but we actually got a chance to talk with Megyn Kelly just ahead of her speech. Take a listen to what she told us about why she felt it was important to be here.
Well, Charlie and I were set to do this together. He asked me if I would go on tour with him, and I said I would. He was a dear friend, and he came on my show all the time, and it seemed like the least I could do, and actually seemed like a fun thing to do. One of the main things I'm going to talk to him about tonight, and I think they're feeling anyway, is it's time to be bold. It's truly time to be unafraid, or if you are afraid, simply to be courageous. Like the time to hold your conservative views inside and not tell anybody and hope you can skate by in a liberal world is over.
I also asked Kelly if she felt safe in light of what happened to Charlie Kirk just 2 weeks ago. She told me she does, saying that she felt like this place is like, quote, Fort Knox in here. And we have certainly seen security measures here on campus for this event. Students here are ticketed. They were asked to show an ID where the name had to match the ticket. They were not allowed to bring cameras in or bags. And they were told to go through these magnometers as well as they walked in through these doors here tonight. So certainly a comprehensive security plan in place, Blake.
Hannah, when you talk to folks there, I could see obviously there's hundreds behind you and maybe bigger than that. What's sort of the common thread that you've heard from these students?
Well, everyone is telling me, Blake, hundreds of people, as you said, and everyone is sort of telling me there's been an energy shift that they have felt, that they have heard from their friends, that they have heard from their fellow students. The conservatives feel very energized. That's what I'm hearing from them here. That's something that we heard Megyn Kelly say as well, that she hopes that that's the takeaway. And that's certainly something Turning Point wants to build upon in memory of Charlie Kirk.
Our Hannah Brandt live tonight in Blacksburg, Virginia, the second event since the assassination of Charlie Kirk. Hannah, thank you so much. With me now, Sabrina Siddiqui. She is the national politics reporter for the Wall Street Journal, and she is the national political reporter for The Hill, Julia Manchester. How about that? Sabrina, thank you.
All of the national political reporters.
I'm surrounded with the best here. We have seen, Julia, we saw this in the days after Charlie Kirk's assassination, Turning Point USA saying they have never seen a surge like this. And then the resumption of the tour and going on college campuses. And it makes you wonder, sort of, you heard Hannah there talk about the energy, how much bigger this gets on college campuses and high school campuses, and where it goes from here on the conservative side of the aisle.
We should not underestimate the organizational prowess and apparatus that Turning Point USA has. We can go back to 2024 during the presidential election, and Charlie Kirk and his organization, Turning Point USA, clearly played a role in turning out young voters, in particular young men, to the polls, which I think helped sway the election for Donald Trump. Now, are we necessarily talking about it in this lens next November in terms of how is Charlie Kirk's shooting in particular turning out voters? I don't know. However, if Turning Point USA is getting so many new members, new chapters, if Republicans are able to activate that organization ahead of the midterms, that I think says a lot. Now, the fact that this is happening today in Blacksburg, Virginia is very interesting because we know that Virginia has a governor's race in November. You know, obviously it's an off-year election, so maybe lower turnout, and I think it's going to be a tough one for Republicans, but it'll be interesting to see the results in November with young voters in the states.
You saw the scene there. What do you make of it?
Well, look, you know, Charlie Kirk was one of the most visible people on the right when it comes to young conservative leaders. And there's been this big question mark since his death. Who takes his place at this conservative empire that he left behind? And I think that, you know, this could potentially be, it has been a galvanizing moment for particularly young conservatives across the country. You know, I think to Julia's point, there's still a question as to what actually happens when it comes to influencing voters across the country. You know, the conventional wisdom is that young people tend to still be more supportive of Democrats, and I think that still holds true, even though you saw a small uptick toward President Trump, especially among young men, and Charlie Kirk was instrumental in that. So, you know, Erica Kirk, Megyn Kelly, you know, you have very influential conservative women now trying to take the operation that he left behind and speak to young people directly. Does that, you know, contribute to more of a shift in the politics of young Americans? I think that's certainly the dialogue that they're hoping to have.
All right, see you both here in a moment. In the days following Kirk's assassination, Turning Point USA witnessed a major, as I mentioned, spike in interest. 32,000 requests in just 48 hours, tens of thousands more after that, to build out chapters or join them on college and high school campuses. 21-year-old James Asher found himself in the middle of the national conversation as employees at Office Depot in Michigan rejected his order to print a poster honoring Kirk. The company then fired those employees. The Attorney General, Pam Bondi, taking it a step further, threatening Office Depot with charges for discrimination. Now, while just 21 years old, Asher, no stranger to politics. He's one of the top leaders for the Michigan Young Republicans group. Joins us live tonight here on the Hill. James, thanks for being with us. I don't know if you saw that scene there at Virginia Tech there in Blacksburg. But now as this continues, folks your age, I'll ask you the same question I asked Hannah, which is sort of what is the common thread that you're hearing?
Well, you know, I really think that if we weren't, you know, energized before, we're certainly energized now. You know, I have people that are coming up to me that have been apolitical their entire lives, and they're finally getting involved and just saying, you know, what happened earlier this month was just so horrible. And it really is starting to inspire, I think, a lot of different people who otherwise wouldn't get involved. So it's been really quite an interesting thing. And I've been trying to get people involved. And I've been doing, involved since 6th grade. So to finally see this much energy is quite inspiring. It's tragic, but inspiring at the same time.
You're 21 years old. I see that Western Michigan flag there behind you. When I was 21 years old, I was down the road in James.
Well, go blue. So go blue. I will say that.
It's my way of setting up the question. What's your hope for politics? Because for me, it was a lifetime ago. But you're 21. You got the flag hanging there on the wall. What's your hope?
So my hope for politics is, I don't come from a political background at all. And I don't share this with. I grew up in foster care and things like that. And so I come from a background where I think that should be really focused on people. I at the end of the day, even though I'm very involved with one side of the aisle, I think that politics should always come back to serving people. And my hope with that would be that that's where it returns to, where people are public servants and not just politicians, where people actually care about who they're representing. They care about, what's the best interest of their district. So that's my hope for what politics will return to. I also hope that as a nation, like general politics, will return to civility. I hope that it will return to where, somebody that disagrees with you isn't your enemy.
I read, James, that you told the Wall Street Journal that your heart was, quote, really sad when those employees were fired. I sort of hear it from you as you think about the way forward. James Asher with us tonight here on the Hill. Best of luck to you, James.
Thank you so much.
Of course. All right. Still to come here on the Hill, other side of the break. It is one of the most famous walks in this town. So why is the auto pen hanging up alongside it? When we return.
Let me tell you a story about a shy, bullied kid diagnosed with autism. That boy is me. I'm Leland Vittert, and I have never told this story before. Born Lucky, Sunday at 8, 7 Central on News Nation.
All right. Just moments ago, President Trump responding to the deadly shooting at a Dallas Immigrations and Customs Enforcement field office. One detainee killed. 2 more in critical condition this evening. The president posting the following in part, saying, quote, "It has now been revealed that the deranged shooter wrote an anti-ICE on his shell casings. This is despicable. The brave men and women of ICE are just trying to do their jobs, but they are facing unprecedented increases in threats, violence, and attacks by deranged radical leftists." This follows Vice President Vance's comments to News Nation's Rashad Hudson today.
I'd encourage everybody to really tone down the rhetoric when it comes particularly to our law enforcement and our ICE agents. These are people who are enforcing the law as it's written by Congress and as instructed by the President of the United States. The fact that they've become such a target of online, social media, and even political harassment, I think, thank God most people don't intend to do them harm. But as we find out today, some people do intend to do them harm, and they'll act on it.
You heard the president there mentioning deranged radical leftists, as he put it. The Democratic Party of Texas, the congressional delegation, pointing the finger in a different direction, saying, quote, "The Trump administration and the governor must stop stoking the flames of division, hate, and anger to exploit people's fears for political gain." Both sides doing this. Full panel with me now. Bill McGinley, former cabinet secretary in the first Trump administration. Sabrina Siddiqui back with me, national political reporter for the Wall Street Journal. Julia Manchester, national political reporter for The Hill. Dan Cannon, former Battleground States Director for the Biden-Harris campaigns. Hello to you all. Thanks for being in tonight. Bill, I'm going to start with you because you heard what the president said there. You heard what the Democratic delegation said there. And it seems like, and I started the show with Congressman Tony Gonzalez, who's a Republican who represents the largest district along the southern border, who knows these ICE agents, who knows these Customs and Border Patrol agents. And he basically said, cool it down, calm it, be nice. And I don't know, that it just feels like here we are with the politics.
Well, I mean, I think, we've all seen the violence that has happened lately. Law enforcement is a particular target. You've got a lot of people calling to unmask these officers. Their families have been threatened. They've been threatened personally. And unfortunately, there's some people who are just responding to the rhetoric that's out there right now and taking it out on ICE agents. We don't know a lot about what happened out there. We've only seen some dribs and drabs. So I want to reserve some judgment on this until we get more information. But this can't continue. We can't continue to target law enforcement like this. They have a dangerous job. They kiss their spouses goodbye in the morning, and those spouses don't know if they're coming home. I think everybody on this panel probably knows law enforcement, whether they're family or friends. It's a very difficult job, and these sorts of incidents make it even more difficult.
Third incident, and I don't even want to call it an incident. It was there were two cases in Texas earlier this summer. You got a law enforcement officer, Dan, who was injured, wounded in the neck, and now this today. This isn't the first time that this has happened.
No, and I think the rhetoric, the prolific algorithm on social media that drives some of the incentives to do more and more incendiary things, then follow folks down a rabbit hole like that is problematic. The prevalence of guns in our society is problematic. All of it's an issue. And to Bill's point about, in your point about toning it down, I think you have to do that with law enforcement, certainly have a dangerous job. There have been other violent situations with members of the gay community, the Pulse nightclub shooting where they were targeted, Planned Parenthood offices where they were targeted. When I was on the campaign, we had a field office in Arizona that was shot at 3 times. So it is a big deal with law enforcement. We should be careful to be clear about that. But it's a problem everywhere. And going back to the Pulse thing for a second, when the president or anyone else starts to sort of throw transgender stuff into this as a motivation, that's also dangerous. I mean, they could become a target from someone else on the other side. And so I think everybody has a responsibility to say, whether you think this sort of fits your left-wing priors or your right-wing priors or what they care about, they're not a Republican or a Democrat if you do this. They are a murderer. We should repudiate them carte blanche and understand that where this is coming from is not a place of politics, but a place of either mental illness or something else.
I think that as we've seen, you have this increase in political violence that has transpired on both the left and the right. Another incident, of course, was a gunman peppering the CDC headquarters in Atlanta with bullets. Thankfully, no casualties there among staff there. But, there's a lot of concern, and we're seeing that in polling, too, among the American people about this rise in political violence and then the direction of the country, where most Americans actually do believe that you have to be able to have policy disagreements. You can criticize, whatever any administration of any party may be doing on X, Y, and Z without resorting to violence. And so how do you make that distinction really clear? And that's where rhetoric matters. I do think that, there are even some Republicans I've heard from who are a little bit concerned that President Trump has been antagonizing the left only because he's in the highest office in the land. Typically, it is the president who acts as a unifying figure in moments like these and is more uniquely positioned to get people to take things down a notch rather than potentially ratcheting it up.
Julia, ICE officers are the targets, though. We have seen this time and time again.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, it speaks to, I think, where we are at this moment in this country where we're seeing increased rhetoric. And, I don't mean to use this cliche, but on both sides of the aisle, I mean, you have ICE officers being the target. You have the CDC being the target in that sense. Dan listed a number of examples as well. But I think when it comes to the immigration debate in this country and the very heated rhetoric surrounding that debate, I think we are seeing it very much play out here.
All right, to a different topic. Speaking of the president, this today coming from the White House. This is the colonnade, one of the most famous walks in all of Washington, from the residence to the Oval. And look at that, the line of presidents and the auto pen for Joe Biden. I've only got a minute before the break, so around the table real quick. Give it to me in a word. What do you see here?
I thought it was a pretty good picture of the auto pen.
Bill advised me to take it as a joke, and I will take Bill's advice.
Okay.
I mean, this is just still one of those moments where you kind of just throw up your hands because you don't really know what to say. We know the president is obsessed with his predecessor's use of the auto pen. I do think there are some people who might think this is a bit petty, though.
All right, you're giving it the shoulder shrug emoji. I'll give you the last word here.
I'm sure Donald Trump's political base loves this.
You were reserved there. You took counsel's advice.
Look, I think come together where we can and sure.
There we go. There's the theme. Appreciate y'all. Thanks so much. Appreciate it. All right, still to come. Other side of the break. Remember when the president was at the U.S. Open tennis? Well, now Elizabeth Warren has a word. What she's saying.
Sample by texting ARCH to 369-369. Plus, text NOW and we'll include a tube of Instaflex pain cream for fast-acting relief from the pain of arthritis, backaches, and sore muscles absolutely free. Text ARCH to 369-369 today.
All right, if you're just getting home, trying to catch up on today's top stories, here's some of what's trending on thehill.com. Family of the national airport crash victims sues American Airlines and the federal government. You'll remember that crash killing 67 people earlier this year. There's this as well. The FDA initiates a label change on Tylenol to warn of autism. You know the message from the president earlier this week. And then there's this as well. The Democratic Adelita Grijalva wins a special election to fill her father's seat in Arizona. The Democrats now get another seat. To find those stories and more, all you have to do is head on over to thehill.com. All right, time for my take now. Just a couple weeks ago, you might remember President Trump took in the U.S. Open in New York, seen here in the Rolex box with the Swiss company's CEO. But there was no love lost for the duo from Senator Elizabeth Warren, who released a letter today questioning if the Swiss watchmaker was vying for an exemption from Trump's 39% tariffs imposed on Switzerland. The letter asking if they were trying to cultivate a relationship with the president. The White House pushing back, calling Warren's claims, quote, asinine conspiracy theories. Now, given the power dynamic in this town right now, a strongly worded letter from Democrats is about as powerful as a lob in tennis. Republicans set the agenda. They have the subpoena power. But if Democrats, especially when the House during the midterms, those lobs could turn into overhead slams. They'd have the ability to serve up an investigation on tennis treatment or basically anything else they want. Now, I'm not here to tell you if Warren is onto something or not, but here's the point. Both sides know that this is part of the political game. So too does the White House, showing part of what is at stake in next year's midterm election. Hannah Doba is filling in for Elizabeth tonight. Coming up on Elizabeth Vargas Reports, just seconds away, she will continue to follow that Turning Point event, a Turning Point USA event at Virginia Tech, which we talked about, showed you some of the sites as well. Hannah, up next. I'm Blake Burman. I hope you have a good one. See you tomorrow.